In section 11-1, we are going to be introducing the general journal for the first time and also going to be adding a new account for purchases, returns, and allowances, and then posting. So the general journal is different than the journal that we used in chapters 1 through 8. In chapters 1 through 8, we had only a general journal, but it included the general columns, the sales credit, and then the cash debit and credit. This general journal is going to be much simpler. It's just going to have two columns, general debit and general credit. And we're going to use this anytime a special journal, the 4 special journals that we have learned, is not applicable. So here we have a memorandum. It says attached invoice is for supplies bought on account. So you might think, well, we'll use our purchases special journal. Well, we can't use the purchases special journal because that's for making purchases of merchandise on account. And we are purchasing supplies on account. So we need to use our general journal. So this transaction we have done several times before. We bought supplies on account from Estes Supplies. So we're going to debit supplies because it's an asset. And then we will credit accounts payable. So what's different is that in our general journal, we only have the debit and the credit. And so we will post starting with the debit, always list the debit on the first line. So we'll debit supplies store. It's memo 42, so M42. Notice since it says doc number here, we need to specify what the document is. So it's a memo. Then we have our debit amount. And then we have accounts payable and the vendor name. So accounts payable / Estes Supplies. That's important because when we go to post, we need to post that $165.25 credit into both of those accounts. So we have the / there, and then we also have the diagonal line in the post reference column to split that box into 2 sections. So we can write the accounts payable account number as well as the account number for Estes Supply. And then we have our credit amount. So the difference in using the general journal is the diagonal line because we're now going to post into both accounts payable and Estes Supply. So that is what this transaction looks like in the general journal. Our next transaction includes when we make a purchase. So we're purchasing merchandise and we're purchasing it on account, and then we need to make a return. So Scheels, when we think of making a return at Scheels, we think of us as customers going to the customer service desk and making a return. Well, Scheels, they purchase items from Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, and maybe they get too much of the same size, or maybe they have damaged goods. They need to make returns to those companies as well. So Scheels might need to make a return to Nike. And that's the situation that we're talking about here. So when we purchase on account, so we have an accounts payable to a vendor, and then we make a return. So when this happens, we'll get something called a debit memorandum. This shows the price deduction that we will receive when we make a return. So an example of that is this debit memorandum right here. So we are returning 2 batteries, and the cost is $43.90. So we need to debit our accounts payable Mobley Tools by $43.90. So that journal entry would look like this. Accounts payable is going to decrease with the debit, $43.90 to accounts payable. And then we're going to credit purchases, returns, and allowances. So the transaction would look like this. Our date, accounts payable / Mobley Tools. It's a debit memorandum, so DM38. And then you see debit memorandum. That could be a clue that you're going to debit accounts payable for $43.90. And then we're going to credit our new account purchases, returns, and allowances. It increases with a credit. So now this transaction shows that we're going to decrease the amount that we owe Mobley Tools by $43.90. When we post with these new diagonal lines, it's not a whole lot different than when we've posted for the last 10 chapters, but we'll start by posting to our specific vendor accounts. Starting with the date, notice that we'll have G12 for General Journal, page 12. Our credit amount or the debit amount. Update the account balance, and then finally put the account number. Notice very small there on the right side of the diagonal line because the company name is on the right side of the diagonal line in the account title. Now we need to post the other half of those entries. with the date, G12 for General Journal, page 12. You'll post the amount exactly as it is on the row that you're posting. So notice we've already posted the Estes supply, the credit of $165. Well, we need to post that credit of $165 to accounts payable as well. Update the balance, and then we'll put our vendor number or account number back up into the General Journal. And that is lesson 11-1, introducing the General Journal for the first time and making sure that we understand posting when we have to post two accounts for the same row, including a diagonal line, so that you can post two separate account numbers in the same cell.